Welcome, CFB Nation. I'm your host, Nino Brown. We're in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl, and I got my guy, John Vogel here. We're going to talk about a couple guys that rises, fallers, maybe positive, negative. We'll have to get into it. But, John, overall, how's these 3 days been in Mobile, Alabama?
Man, it's been great. Always love coming down here. This is the third year I've made it down here in the last 5. I missed 2, 21 and 22, but I've been last year in 2020. It's always a great opportunity to get in front of these players, to get an opportunity to take a look at them up close, look at the body type, see how well they fit, and start to really put the projection together. This is also the first opportunity to start talking to NFL teams, get out there, start talking with people around here and around the league, see what they're kind of thinking. Helps you with the projection part of this, because that is an aspect to this that we have to consider, because I can have my grade. Doesn't mean that's where they're going to be. And that's what we want. That's part of figuring out is where we need to, where a guy's going to get drafted. That's part of the evaluation.
Absolutely. Mobile is just a wonderful scene, and being able to, link up with you, talk ball, and a bunch of other guys down here, it's been phenomenal. Let's break down a couple guys. It could be good or bad, but the first guy, I know he's your guy, New Hampshire running back, Dylan Lave. Talk to me about him and what he's done these 3 days here in Mobile.
Well, yeah, New Hampshire running back, right? That's the key word that they were trying to kind of figure out about him and how he kind of plays the game, how he operates. When you used to watch a New Hampshire guy, you kind of wonder, does he have the skill set that's going to translate to the next level? Is he fast enough? Is he quick enough? Can he run the routes at the next level? And I think what he's done in the last 3 days, he's proved to everybody that he is indeed an NFL running back. He can hang with these big boys, and he's going to dominate against these guys. He's had a dominant week, route running the ball, showing what he can do as a receiver, working out of the slot, not just the backfield. He's done immeasurable damage, I think, to the rest of the running back class. He's a riser, and it looks like he could come off the board prior to day 3. I'm not entirely sold on it yet. We got to see how he tests. I mean, think about this. If he goes down to the combine and runs a 4.49, everybody loses their minds.
Yes. 100%. It would be pure pandemonium. He's stacking unbelievable performances back to back like that. That would be crazy. I said it to you. I said it to multiple people. We talked about him lining up in the slot. I do not see many running backs in college or the NFL that are catching fades. Never mind back shoulder fades. Talk about the receiving skills, this guy. It's absolutely incredible.
No, he's an excellent route runner. As I witnessed today in an interview that I did with him on the field after practice. He's an excellent route runner. He's phenomenal. And, he takes great pride in it. But the real thing that he does to separate is he's got a lot of short burst. And, we talk about the 10-yard splits and the 40-yard dash. That's a huge part of evaluating what a guy can do, how he can accelerate, how quickly he starts to move. That's what he does. Dylan is a guy that starts to pull away from guys. So very Jamar Chase-esque. That's what Jamar has done to separate himself. I'm not saying he's Jamar Chase as a wide receiver. Don't get this twisted. Right. But that's what Jamar does to separate, right? Is he's got short burst, and he can utilize it in several different areas of his route. And Dylan's really good at pacing. And the fade ball is his favorite thing to run. He loves to fade, especially out of the slot. So that's what he's going to go do. He caught 6-7 touchdowns in New Hampshire doing the slot fade. He's going to keep to do that. He beat Smith Wade, the corner out of Washington State, who was pressing people really well all week, and he couldn't press Dylan Lave either. So, I think that says a lot about where he's going to be as a pro player.
Yeah, I mean, the kid led his team in rush yards, receiving yards, touchdowns. It was amazing, and to see him in the flesh and just constantly stack good days was great. Let's flip it to another guy, opposite side of the field, defensive side, Penn State DB, Kalen King. What are your thoughts on his performances last 3 days?
Kalen's not a guy that is necessarily a man coverage player, and I think that's what's been put on full display here this week. When you're not a man coverage player, you're going to get roasted in 1v1s, and that's kind of what happened to Kalen this week. Everybody's talking about how the rough week that he had. He kind of had a rough year on top of it. New defensive set, Manny Diaz, coming in there, and things were a little bit different. So I think that might have hurt him a little bit. I wasn't personally that high on him because I would watched him this year and didn't see a lot that said second, third round to me. But when you get down into the draft day, you got a guy that he's a little undersized, can't really cover in man, and he's going to have to fit into a specific role in the defense. Is there a defense that's going to be willing to cater that to him? That's what we're going to find out.
I mean, I talked about it with Boomer while we're on the field today, and I feel like some teams are going to stretch, kind of like how they stretched with Emmanuel Forbes. You know, unfortunately, King doesn't have those touchdowns, you know, the pick sixes, but he's kind of scrappy. It just seems like these couple of days he's had trouble recovering, and these twitchier guys have really given him some trouble coming out the breaks there. I think he's going to have to kind of rebound in this combine in the next couple of weeks here and month before the draft and kind of raise his stock a little bit. But, you know, somebody might reach, and it could be, you know, just a landing spot for him, and it could just propel him on going forward. So we'll have to wait and see.
I'm glad that you mentioned the twitchiness, having trouble with that. And you know what that is we talk about measurables and athletic testing, and we put a lot of, stock into the 40-yard dash, the vertical leap, all these different things to show that you're an athlete, you can do it. The thing with him is, with Kalen is there's a difference in the cornerback position as opposed to being able to be an actual athlete as opposed to being a reactive athlete. Those are two completely different things. And Kalen's reactive athleticism is not going to be the same as he tests. That's a very key part of watching a corner. How reactive are they? How quick are they? Kalen just unfortunately lacks a lot of reactive athleticism.
Yeah, I agree with you. Absolutely 100% there. I'm going to bring in another guy. Seemed like he might have had an injury being the reason why he missed today. But Florida State wide receiver Johnny Wilson coming in, there was all kinds of, hype, talk, buzz about him. Is he going to move to tight end? His measurements, his percentiles, his wide receiver were all in the 90th or above percentile. But when you break it down into a tight end position, everything was good aside the weight. I felt like the first 2 days in Mobile kind of just seemed like he was like slow a little bit, just trying to get out of his own way. He did have a nice catch on the sideline on a comeback, but for the most part, I felt like a big guy like that, he really wasn't working these guys. What are your thoughts on Johnny Wilson?
I thought that there were a few reps where some smaller corners that we didn't expect to show up in this event really showed that they could do it against Johnny. He's a big guy. He's a little heavy. He's almost 6'7", 237 pounds, whatever he came in at. Now we're kind of starting to talk about a big slot. I think I wonder Wilson's going to be limited more into like a big slot role, a guy that you're going to put there, not really be a tight end, but at the same time, kind of stretch the field in his way, try to get those matchups with smaller defensive backs or safeties. A lot of safeties aren't great in man coverage, so in those instances, Johnny might be really good for that. But overall, I thought that, extended catch radius is going to help him. Because, he's got a great catch radius. We saw that on tape, saw that a little bit this week as well. And while he might not be as quick through his breaks, there's a guy that went in the second round with a similar trait style. Maybe Wilson's a little bit bigger, but Chase Claypool was the guy that played here. I was here in 2020 when he played and had a lot of similar buzz kind of coming out of the week where, is he really a wide receiver on the boundary? And Chase Claypool, somebody thought, hey, let's put him in the slot, and he's caught 10 touchdowns as a rookie, so.
Yeah, unfortunately, Claypool, had that 1 year, and then it kind of seemed to go down. With Johnny Wilson in the slot, if we're going to move him to the slot and not be a tight end, it just comes to mind as like a Mike Gesicki vibe, right? A guy who doesn't really have to block, plays a slot, he's shiftier. I think that could work, but it all depends. Going to the NFL, yes, he's got the height, the weight. He could kind of get thrown around a little bit by these linebackers or these bigger safeties. So we'll have to see. I know he's got the height, but he doesn't have like the separation for me. I don't see the separation. And, being that big guy, you would think he was a red zone target. The numbers kind of don't mesh well with that this year. So what are your thoughts about him as a red zone guy?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a red zone guy. Anytime you can get that kind of size and athletic ability combined, even though he might not be the quickest guy, he is an athlete. He's got some vertical leap to ability to him. He's going to test decently well. I think anytime you have that kind of size and ability, you're going to use him in the red zone. You have to, especially with the matchups that you're going to generate off of that. I just wonder if he's going to end up in the slot more so than anything else. And sort of it's that hybrid tight end role is kind of coming into play in the NFL, especially recently. Think about Evan Ingram in Jacksonville.
Exactly.
Same kind of size, same kind of athletic limitations. I could definitely see that working and them rolling with that.
All right, I like that comp. Let's talk about a guy that I kind of wanted to see come in here, Michigan linebacker Jalen Harrell. Man, he just seems to be. I know he's an off the ball guy, but he seemed to be putting a lot of pressure on Penix. Seemed to be getting, in the backfield. I know in day 2 he had a couple QB hurries. He had a sack, a pass breakup. What are your thoughts on Harrell and what he's done for his draft stock here in Mobile?
I liked Harrell. I was definitely thinking a little bit more of an off-ball linebacker. Maybe he could slide into a rush edge. He had a good year at Michigan this year. He's been pretty darn productive the last couple of years he's played. I think that he's got that really nice size, right, where you can kind of sneak under a tackle naturally with his natural bend. Doesn't have to work extra hard for that. And I think that's kind of what's happened is he's got that ability to mix both of those things, right? The bend and the natural athletic ability to sneak past people. When you're going up, I remember a few years ago when Josh Uche was here and he was going against Charlie Heck, and the difference between them was about 5 inches and maybe, not quite 100 pounds, but very close to it. Charlie came in 6'7", 315. Uche was around 235 and 6'2". And Uche was able to just bend right under him, and Charlie couldn't really get hands on him. And I think it's a similar type of setup that you're trying to create with Harrell, where you're going to try to get him to bend under people and work that, natural size disadvantage and make that an advantage. He's definitely going to be quick enough, and I think that's why he was able to generate some pressure.
Yeah, it seemed I watched a lot of the reps there, and it seemed as though he was getting the best out of Driscoll from Marshall, and just like you said, getting low on that bend, getting around. Once he got that little step, he was able to just propel right to the quarterback and cause havoc. So I think he definitely raised his stock here in Mobile. Let's get to the elephant in the room here. This last question I got for you on this, Senior Bowl rosters here. Let's talk about the quarterback room in a whole for both the American and national team. Do you think anybody kind of stepped up and separated themselves from the pack? And give me one sleeper guy that you really like that kind of just raised his stock. I think it's going to stack up going into the combine and going forward.
Well, honestly, that answer might be the same for both of those questions. I think Spencer Rattler, personally, was the guy that kind of separated himself a little bit. It wasn't by much, but Spencer had himself a good week. Got, the ball out on time most of the time. I now understand that you can argue and say, oh, well, he's working with Xavier Legette all week, and he's very familiar with Legette. He's been there at South Carolina with him the last 2 years. And, there were a lot of good balls that he put to Legette. But I thought Rattler, just his ability to operate, just seemed like he was a step above, at least the competition that was around him, and was more consistent getting the ball out on time, really trying to push it down the field and show and take risks, take advantage of this opportunity that he has. And so, I think that's something that could continue for him as momentum going forward. Now, I will say, that being said, Joe Milton is definitely going to have attention going to the combine when he goes out there and starts ripping 80-yard go balls, because that's what he can do, right? Like, he's got a cannon of an arm. He very well may walk into the NFL next year and have the best arm in the league. So, I think Milton is a guy that could potentially go to the combine, really start to impress people. The 6'5", 235-pound frame, that's something that's really attractive, and that arm is as well. So even as a developmental guy, I think teams are going to be willing to take a risk with him.
Okay. I love the Spencer Rattler, bringing him up, because he was a guy I really wanted to see. I think that he has a chance to kind of maybe sneak in late day 2, early day 3, and be a guy. I mean, I love the fact he had amnesia after day 1, threw that pick right to end the practice in the team drills, and he came in the next day and he was just rolling. He seemed very good in drills and the one-on-ones. He was firing balls. So I think Rattler definitely raised his stock. I think Michael Pratt a little bit might have raised his stock a little bit. I've seen him working with a lot of these wide receivers on the sideline. We're talking about routes and stuff. Many of the quarterbacks weren't really doing that, and he seemed to be involved. I was a little concerned that he was running too much, but maybe he was just showing that he had some mobility and wanted everybody else to see it. What are your thoughts on Pratt?
Pratt's interesting. He's not exactly what you call a toolsy prospect, right? When we talk about toolsy guy, real great athleticism, like, J.J. McCarthy has in this class, or Caleb Williams. He doesn't have that kind of athletic ability. He doesn't have the arm either, right? He's not the guy that's going to wow you with his arm. But he's a gritty leader. He's confident. I mean, there's a lot of good things that he does well from a mechanical standpoint. And those are the types of guys that we've seen stick around the league for 10, 12 years. Partial starter, backup, whatever, however you want to look at that. I think that that's kind of the expectation with him, anyways. But yeah, there's a lot of good things that are there for him in his skill set that NFL teams are definitely going to be interested in. And the best part is what I've heard for a long time now, I've been hearing all year, is that he is a natural leader, an old school leader, and just a leader of men and smart enough in the game to kind of make up for any deficiencies that he has.
Yeah, the way you described the leader of men and a vocal guy, like when he did the press conference day 2 after all the practices, just the way he was answering questions and holding his own, you could see the leadership in the way he carried his cadence and stuff, answering all these questions. He did say though, and this is surprising, I want to get your point, your interest on this and what you think about it, is he said he had multiple interviews with the Denver Broncos already. What are your thoughts on that landing spot?
I'd heard Denver well before coming into this. That makes a lot of sense if you think about what Sean Payton has done at the quarterback position most of his career. Drew Brees had a really good arm, was able to push the ball down the field, but he was a mechanically sound quarterback who played at a very high pace. Right. That's Pratt. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that him locking him up with Payton would be excellent for early in his career and his development. John, I appreciate you. You're a busy guy, taking time out of your schedule and everything to hop on the pod with me and talk Senior Bowl. Before we let you go, tell the folks at home where they can find your work.
NFL Draft Lounge. Me and Brian Land, myself, we work on putting out a lot of scouting reports, a lot of notes, a lot of different things that go up on there. Then on the Sick Podcast, the Draft Vogel, Sick Podcast Network, really great. Have a great time with Justin Gamble, Mark Jarvis, breaking down what it is that we're looking for when we scout. Just trying to help spread that knowledge and hope that we can pass on and continue to pass on the tradition of and the culture of scouting.
I love your work. I respect everything you put out there. It was a blast, linking up with you in Mobile and just talking ball and prospects and stuff. Like I said, I appreciate the time we were able to spend together. CFB Nation, I'm Nino Brown. Until the next time, we out.